Welcome to Global Grand Rounds, a Heart Rhythm TV production. My name is Dr. Ben Glover, and today it gives me a great pleasure to introduce Dr. Jaswal. Dr. Jaswal is Director of Cardiology at Fortis Health Center in New Delhi, India. Welcome, Dr. Jaswal.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ben.
Dr. Jaswal, you've got extensive experience in cardiac electrophysiology. Could you highlight the training program in India and how you progressed through from medical school through your training to become a cardiac electrophysiologist?
Yeah, so at the outset, I'd like to thank you, Ben, for getting me over here and sharing our experiences. And I think it's a fantastic idea to share cross-border experiences in our training programs. So how it happens in India is that when you enter your medical school, we typically have our training for 5 years, wherein you graduate as a MBBS. And subsequent to that, we go into doing our specialization into either medicine or cardiology, medicine or surgery or ophthalmology. We pick up any of these streams, which is for the 3 years. After you become an internist, that is, you finished your MD medicine, it's then that you pick up your super specialization. Supposing like in a cardiology, you pick up cardiology and very rigorous examinations to enter the course, and then it's a further 3-year program. So by the time you've become a cardiologist, you've spent roughly around 11 years when you finally are having a degree as a cardiologist. Now imagine after that, after you've spent 11 years, provided you haven't lost any time in between in getting your seats, because you know the population of India, we are sitting at 1390 million. So just to put things in perspective, the United States is 330 million, while we are sitting at 1390 million. So if you've been lucky enough and you've kind of run everything on time, it would take you about 11 years. And it is subsequent to that that you actually begin your training as an electrophysiologist. So you're already in your early 30s, mid 30s, when you begin to train as an electrophysiologist. And in yesteryears, what typically used to happen is that we would be looking at going either to the United States or to Canada or to Australia for our training programs. But it's very nice that now the training programs are much homegrown. We have a very vast experience of our electrophysiologists, and the newer crop of electrophysiologists that are coming are being trained in our home country, because the volumes here, you understand, are very large. However, a few of us yet want to go abroad, get further training hands-on, because we may not have all the tools that few countries are fortunate enough to have. So that's the typical journey of an electrophysiologist in India, if I may say.
Dr. Jaswal, I note that you're one of the few female cardiac electrophysiologists in India. We're working very hard to try and establish gender equity in cardiology and cardiac electrophysiology in North America. Can you tell us a little bit and give us a little bit of advice in terms of how you come through the system and what your recommendations would be to trainees coming through the system?
So I have this smile because I want to begin with a little piece of news which was circulating in India, that patients who are treated by female cardiologists actually do better than they are from their male counterparts. So let's start with that. Well, I take great pride. I take great pride in being a female cardiologist and subsequently being a female electrophysiologist. And it's rather upsetting, or what shall I say, that if we look at the United States, it's about 5 to 6% that we would have female electrophysiologists, and the number would be even lesser in countries such as ours. Needless to say, the journey, as I just mentioned, is rather long and demanding. But one thing which I'd like to speak to my fellow female colleagues is that no journey is easy. Even when they take up a specialty such as gynecology, I think it's rigorous hours that they put into that field. Somehow there is a mental block that interventional cardiology or electrophysiology is going to be more extensive. I would like to say that this specialty is so rewarding and it's so exciting that it's really worth it. Rather, I would like to tell them that as in gynecology, you may want, or obstetrics, you may have to wake up all night trying to deliver babies. It isn't so here. In fact, if you chart your course career well, electrophysiology can be so exciting and you can plan your day much better.
That's absolutely amazing advice. Thank you very much for sharing that. Can you explain to us what the healthcare system in India is like and what the typical journey of an arrhythmia patient, for example, a patient with atrial fibrillation, would be coming through the healthcare system in India?
Yeah, so let me put certain things in perspective. As I just mentioned that India is a very vast country. We have to understand its socio-economic diversity is unbelievable. I mean, you have to be here to understand what happens here. We have a population, as I told you, which is huge, enormous. And the registered electrophysiologists with Indian Heart Rhythm Society would be to the tune of about 300 to 320. Now look back. What is the number tending to offer their services to this enormous population? It's an arduous task. It's really something which is really calling. So what do we deal with is the majority, about 45 to 50% of Indian population is young, between 18 to 45 years of age group. I think most of us are so busy doing supraventricular tachycardia ablations, be it AVNRT. We have a very high population of AVRTs, atrial tachycardias, because you must remember the small number of EPs are largely in the metro cities. Mm-hmm. So we have patients filtering in from nearby towns, coming down to our metro cities for ablation of arrhythmias. Having said that, the major EP lab work time is directed towards relieving arrhythmias of patients who are extremely symptomatic with simple arrhythmias. Mm-hmm. So we must understand that trying to do AF ablation does take a back seat in our geography. We do not have as much bandwidth of electrophysiologists or the EP lab work time to devote special just AF programs. So patients who come for an AF ablation are well informed that they may have to wait, which could be maybe a week. It wouldn't be more than that. But they are also informed about the challenges of AF ablation, being the cost that is involved, the procedural complications that entail, understanding that he may have to come back for repeat procedures. And I think and believe that every geography thinks differently. You need to have a very mature society to understand that there could be the issue of complications and I may have to come back. While Indian society has matured, but they are still looking at procedures which are a quick fix, one-time fix at a lesser price. Hence, I would say that if I were to say, are we at the apex of our AF ablation programs? I'd say no, we are still developing. It's gathering its roots, it's strengthening itself, but we're not there yet. So that's what I would position myself with.
That's an interesting journey. So in terms of the cardiac electrophysiology laboratory, can you tell me what facilities you have? For example, do you use 3D electroanatomic mapping systems? Do you have intracardiac echo? Do you use cryoablation or any other types of technology? And what your typical caseload mix would be?
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. Let me tell you that in about a decade, a lot of changes happened in our EP labs. Majority of the EP labs in the metro cities would have the luxury of having three-dimensional mapping systems, be it CARTO, be it EdSide. Some of the labs may have both of them. And in fact, it's very nice to share with you that most of our public hospitals would also have the 3D mapping systems wherever they have an electrophysiology program. However, if you were to talk of ICE, yes, ICE and cryo, these are two things that we are still ready to have in our EP labs, but I'm sure we'll be having them soon. We have the latest catheter ablation catheters. We are using all of them. We have the contact force, we have the penta-array, we have the hybrid. I mean, we have all the newer ablation catheters with us. But yes, ICE and cryo are some things which you're still looking at.
So Dr. Jaswal, as you know, like COVID-19 has really ravaged the earth over the last 18 months. And in particular, we see in India, it's really had a very, very significant impact. Could you tell us a little bit about the impact that COVID-19 has had in New Delhi and in India as a whole?
So I think if I may sum it up, COVID, I think, has scarred us for life. As gray as it may sound, it is absolutely real. I don't think in our living lives as practicing doctors, we would have ever faced an emotion called helplessness. So that's where we are today. And India's burning. And if I may say that the apex right now is Delhi. And while I'm speaking with you on that, I'm getting goose pimples right now because Delhi is really in a bad state of the second surge that we are in. Patients calling all of us up, asking desperately for a bed. We helpless. We have no idea. What do we tell them? And all of us come back and just tell them that begin awake proning. We're trying to sell them the concept of oral steroids, telling them to somehow get a nurse at home and give intravenous steroid, do awake proning. So this is something which I don't think we'll ever be able to overcome. Our practices have changed. And if I may say, for the past few weeks, we have halted doing any elective procedures because for the want of oxygen and to reserve every oxygen that we can for our patients of COVID. So we've actually stopped doing electives, and all that we have all been doing for the past few weeks is just putting something like pacemakers or somebody with a VT storm needing an ablation. That's about it. We have stopped doing anything more than that. We're in the midst of a storm. And in fact, we're saying that in Delhi, we're in the midst of a tsunami. And every evening when we switch on our television, it's like just hoping and praying that the numbers are going to get better the next day. And while I'm speaking with you, all I can hear is I know there are ambulance sirens going just on all the streets because patients are just being transported and scrambling for a bed. So I think we are in a very bad state and just hoping and praying we come out of it as soon as we can.
Yes, I can hear those ambulances in the background. So a very insightful experience. As Gandhi said, you don't know who you have or what you have until you effectively lose it. So I think this makes us appreciate more of what we actually have in life. On that note, can you tell me what personal experiences and personal impact COVID-19 has had on your life?
Absolutely, because while we are getting to work, we are at work every day, but I must confess that we are not posted in the COVID wards. We have been doing online work with our COVID patients, but we are not in the COVID wards. Yet the condition in Delhi right now is you must consider everybody to be COVID positive unless you prove otherwise. So it's like we are seeing our OPDs at work. So it's the fear is there and it's immense. But I think one good thing that has happened and the strategy that was at the very outset all over the world was to vaccinate the healthcare workers. Now that's, if we look at what happened in the first wave and compared to the second wave, the medical professionals are certainly behaving better. They have better COVID appropriate behavior. That's certain. Also, we are seeing that even if medical healthcare workers are contracting the disease, they're faring much better because those of us who've been vaccinated, I think are safer. And that's what's giving us the strength to be there, to get out to work, relieve our patients from whatever best we can.
Thank you for that personal answer. Can you give me 3 interesting things about India, not necessarily related to cardiology or cardiac electrophysiology, but just 3 things that are very distinctively Indian?
So I think the biggest strength of Indian culture is to embrace the heterogeneity of each other and the world. Now, tell me, where in the world would it be that you would be living together with over 22 languages and 30 festivals? Take my case, for example. I know 4 languages. I have studied in the southern India. I'm practicing in the northern India, and I celebrate all the festivals together. And I know so many languages. And in fact, although I belong to North of India, I look for someone from South of India so I can speak with them. So I think this is what brings the unique color, and that's the unique fabric of India. And to say that if I were to list just 3 things, I think it would be wrong, because there is so much. If I were to speak of our music, if I was to speak of our cultural festivals, if I was to speak of our food, and I think I would want each one of you, once COVID settles, must visit India once in a lifetime to look at the rainbow of life. I mean, this is a unique place. I myself have so much more to do and so much more to visit, because India is a colored landscape, and you must visit this country to get the flavor, because it is here that I think this is one place where it's a mother of diversity. So you have to visit it to realize the flavor of this country.
Okay, that's a great advertisement for India. Dr. Jaswal, I would like to thank you immensely for this interview today. It's been absolutely fascinating, and we've covered some great topics. I would like to add that before this interview, myself and Dr. Jaswal were speaking about the interview, and she told me that she actually went to get a special webcam for this interview, and to get a webcam in the middle of a lockdown in a pandemic in New Delhi is almost impossible. So, I mean, I think that speaks volume as to what an individual Dr. Jaswal actually is. So thank you so much for this interview. It's been a great experience, and I hope to meet you soon in the future.